Welcome back to the Offer Mojo Show, where we talk all about crafting, scaling, marketing, and selling aligned and profitable offers. Today, we're going to take a little bit different spin. We're usually talking about marketing or offer types or whatever. But today, we are going to be talking about the legal protection that we need to have in place whenever we launch a new offer or even scale into a different type of offer. Um, this to me is something that typically like kind of scares me. Anytime like I read about like people like our guests that are posting things about legal, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I don't have the right legal protection in place. Thanks to our guest, I'm feeling pretty good about my legal protection, with the exception of one little area, which we will talk about. But we are going to dive into, I guess, what you would consider a legal offer checklist. What are those legal things that we need to have in place, like the IP protection, terms of service, disclaimers for refund policies. We're also even going to get into a little bit about like AI. Is there a way to protect ourselves legally if we have like AI type offers? So I want to introduce our guest, Natalie Puglisi is an online business attorney dedicated to helping online entrepreneurs, course creators, coaches, and service providers protect their intellectual property and stay legally compliant. Natalie built her practice around serving the specific legal needs of digital business owners. She specializes in trademark protection, legal contracts, and ensuring entrepreneurs have the legal foundations they need to scale confidently. Natalie is passionate about making legal protection accessible and understandable for business owners at every stage. So, welcome, Natalie, to the show. I'm so glad. What a lot of you probably don't know is this is actually the second time I have on having Natalie on as my guest, because in 2024 I had a different podcast and she came on and shared. And I have personally, I can tell you that I love Natalie. I have personally bought some of her legal templates, disclaimers, website stuff. Recently just bought a terms of use for a couple of my offers. So you're in good hands with Natalie, and I'm really looking forward to like diving in. So why don't we, I guess, start? Like, how long have you been like doing this? Like, I've known you, I think, for a while, but like, how long have
Yeah.
you been like running this this law practice?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I
Hmm.
um I passed the bar in 2011, so I'm
Oh,
going on my
okay.
15th year,
Okay.
which feels crazy, but I feel very fortunate. It's still very much a boys' club.
Yes, I have a
And
brother who's a lawyer, so
yeah, and so I feel very, very fortunate to be able to not only have a practice as a female attorney. I'm also first generation American. Both of my parents are immigrants. So I feel very
mm-hmm.
fortunate to be just in this thriving practice and in a field that I literally, that's the only thing I wanted to do growing up was to be an attorney. I'm not sure I even knew what that meant, but I knew that it
Right.
meant helping people. And so that's really kind of where I based my foundation around being an attorney. So it's been quite
And
a
how
while.
did you go from like just being like an attorney to like really specializing like in helping like digital business owners?
Yeah, so it was quite the evolution, but it was a personal journey. So a large part of the time, if I'm talking to my potential clients and I say, I know where I know where you come from, like I can understand where you are in this journey. I truly, truly mean it because
Hmm.
I was in a very similar path to a lot of my clients as well. I started off being a bankruptcy attorney. I was a
Okay.
clerk in law school for a local bankruptcy firm. And I worked for them out of law school and after passing the bar.
Hmm.
Um, what I didn't realize was that they were preparing for retirement. And so eventually they
Uh,
came to me and they were like, well, it's time to find something else. And I applied to a whole bunch of other jobs. I never wanted to
Mm.
be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
My mom was a 9 to 5er. My dad was an entrepreneur. I would see her get dressed in the morning. She'd blow dry her hair. She'd put on her red lipstick. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
Okay. Okay. Got it. All right.
So I applied to, a bunch of different positions. The only one that I got accepted for an interview was for a public defender's office in like literally the middle of nowhere in California. And
Okay.
I just knew that the universe was telling me something different. So I opened up my own law firm out of necessity. My two partners at the time were kind enough to allow me to walk with my clients. So I sent
Mm-hmm.
a letter to all of my active clients. They all came with me. So I came with a book of business, which was really
Good.
nice.
Right.
But as I started to get into building my practice, I realized I had no idea what I was doing. They had let
Mm.
this attorney out into the wild, having zero idea on how to legally build a business. They don't teach you
Right.
that in law school. They don't teach you practical business law. So I didn't
Interesting.
know if I needed to be a corp, an LLC, if I needed a business license, what I had to put on my website. I knew nothing. And
Right.
I had to figure
Okay.
that all out on my own. I spoke to other attorneys. I went back to the law library. I researched. I did a ton of courses. They're called MCLEs, they're continuing education courses.
Okay.
And I finally figured out, and then it dawned on me, if it's so challenging for me to figure this out and I'm an attorney, then it must be challenging for other people. And what ended up
Mm-hmm.
happening was about 2 weeks into building my business, I met my entrepreneurial husband and he helped
Okay.
me build my business. But we would get a ton of friends that would take us out to coffee and they
Uh-huh.
wanted to pick his brain on how to build their business and they wanted to pick my brain on what they
Mm.
legally need to put in place for their business. And that's when I pivoted. So I was
Okay.
really only a bankruptcy attorney for a very short period of time. And I was kind of overlapping and doing both because I was kind of moonlighting in my own business and helping our friends and family figure out the legal side of their business. But while I was doing that, I was gaining so much knowledge.
Sure.
And I just realized that, you know, there was this need out there, especially for
Mm-hmm.
females. We really have to support each other in entrepreneurial journeys, and
Mm-hmm.
it just really kind of flourished from there. Then when COVID hit, my business blew up because everybody was working from home.
Oh.
Everybody was
Okay.
building businesses from home. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
was a coach or they were, doing online classes. It was really the wild, wild west. And people were
Okay.
running courses, have offerings, giving, like, everything out
Mm-hmm.
there was completely done without the right legal protections in place. So that's when my business really took off.
Got it.
But I have been doing it for quite some time. And like I said, when I have my clients and I say, I understand where you're coming from, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
start, I didn't graduate from law school, I didn't pass the bar exam wanting to be an online attorney.
Sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
I really, really, really understand where my clients are coming from in terms of that journey and not understanding what to put in place, what you need to put in place. It was very intimidating for me. So I can completely relate, which is one of the things I love about my journey and my
Mm-hmm.
connectivity to my clients.
Right. So you had mentioned one of the things that I see a lot is people will say, "Hey, does anyone have a California-based attorney, or does anyone know a New York-based attorney?" Like, what's the difference? I think between, like, I live in California, and oh my God, our laws are like so. I feel like they're just so different. I mean, seriously, like I got out of, I used to be in online business management, and I got out of that because a California attorney told me, because of the AB5 laws, that I really can't do that without being, you know, an employee of that person's business. And I'm like, no, I'm not going down that route, which is how I pivoted into marketing. And at the time, I do not know the AB5 laws today, but at the time, I was told that, marketing was like exempt from those AB5 laws. I have no idea if that's even true anymore. But one of the things I think I'm curious about is how do you like navigate like being an attorney, if you're an online attorney, like how you navigate being an attorney for different people in different like states, maybe even parts of the world. I don't know if you go outside the United States or if you're strictly US.
So I'm strictly US, and that's a
Okay.
really great question. There are
Mm-hmm.
certain areas of law that are dictated by state-specific rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
Employment law, for example, is one of those. Criminal defense is one of those as well.
Okay.
I would never attempt to, in fact, I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, okay, I need an employee handbook, or, I have an independent contractor I'd like to hire her on as an employee. I can't assist with that. That's something that I can't help someone do outside of California. I wouldn't say yes to that anyways because I don't practice employment law. But
Okay.
there are different areas of law that we can practice on a federal level, such as trademark law. Trademark law is a federal law.
Mm-hmm.
You
True.
can have a trademark attorney in any state, and you can live in a completely different state. I don't
Mm-hmm.
practice outside of the US. I have plenty of clients who come to me for trademark protection outside. They're not US clients, but I'm only helping them protect their intellectual property within the US with a trademark or a copyright. So I can do
Okay.
that, but I'm not going to practice somewhere else in a different country. And then there's, a large part of the time, the laws are very similar. So for
Mm-hmm.
things like client agreements, for example, or terms of
Mm-hmm.
use, or terms of service, or privacy policies, most of the templates that we offer as online attorneys are
Mm-hmm.
templates that can be standardized. Most states do have the same types of provisions. If they don't, then it's kind of minuscule, like little detailed information that maybe you don't need, or that you could speak to an attorney in your state about. But if I have someone that comes to me with a very specific need or question, and I know that that is a state specific law, then I will refer them
Mm-hmm.
to an attorney in that state. But majority of the time, I'm only talking about the things that are within my wheelhouse. I'm never going to talk about something that is going to be outside of what I can provide as a service.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's always the general disclaimer of, if you're buying a template from an attorney, period, hands down, just know that there may be state specific laws that you might have to implement. But that's true whether or not you live in the same state as the attorney that's providing those templates or not. So it really just depends. But again, we are held to a certain standard. So
Mm-hmm.
most attorneys, just like most people, right? We're going to be following those standards. And I'm never going to talk about or advocate or advertise or market something that I can't assist my clients with. And if I know that it is outside my wheelhouse, I'll refer them somewhere else. So,
Got it. Got it. Okay. Cool. Um, there's so many different legal things to talk about. Like, what
yeah,
would be the most organized way to
let's do a
talk
journey.
about? Okay, let's
Let's
do a
take a
journey. I
journey.
love
Let's take a
journeys. I love
journey.
journeys.
Let's walk you through what it would look like when you're creating an offer and you're
Mm-hmm.
launching that offer, and what you
Okay.
need in the different various states in terms of putting your legal in place.
Okay, let's do that.
So the first thing that we think about, and look, let me, before we even start, let me just preface by saying that this is not going to be the sexy part about marketing, and this is not going
Right.
to be the sexy part about building your business, but it
Right.
is needed and it is required. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when you're creating your offer is thinking about what it's going to be called, right?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us start with the name, right? And then we're going to go into social media, we're going to go into Google, we're going to see if anyone has anything similar, right? That is a really good first step. But when we're thinking about naming things in our business, whether this is an offer, product, program, podcast, brand name, anything like that, we're going to think about the trademark implications when we are going to be naming anything. And what we're going to want to do, by the way, you do not have to hire an attorney to do this, is
Okay.
run a trademark search, an informal trademark search.
Okay.
What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into Google, social
Mm-hmm.
media, and then the US Patent and Trademark Office database. If you go into Google and you search USPTO TESS, that is
Okay.
their search database. And you're going to search in all of those places for the exact name you want to use and then a name that's substantially similar. So you think of variations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am not
So
a
the
right
exact
brained,
name of your business or the exact name
anything.
of your offer? What'd you
Anything
say?
you're naming in your business, anything you're
Okay.
naming. So your brand
Okay.
name, business name, course name, program name, podcast name, anything you're naming in your business.
Got it.
Um, And I am not a right-brained. I am a left-brained attorney, so I apologize. But if you were going to come up with a course, and let's say you were going to call it Moon Magic, right? And you were going to talk about, I don't know, how the cycles of the moon affect you as a female and your decisions that you make in business, right? For example,
Okay.
you're going to think of all the variations of that name that you possibly can. So Moon Magic, Luna Magic, Moon Magician, Magical Moon, right? You just take out a sheet or open up your laptop or ask ChatGPT and come up with as many variations of that name as you possibly can. Then you're going to search all of those names in Google, social media, and the US Patent and Trademark Office database. If you find anything that's similar to the name and what you're going to be teaching about in your course or program, then I would tell you not to use that name. You don't have to hire me to tell you that that is too similar to the name that you want to use. That is, even if they don't have that name trademarked. I get that question all the time. What if I find a name and the name's not trademarked? They have common law rights to that name. They could technically file a trademark before you and then force you to change the name of your program. Or if you were to try to beat them to the trademark punch, they could undo your trademark at a later date. I'm not going to get into the nuances of it, but best practice is to think of a different name, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the best place to think of when we're thinking about starting, right? When the first baby steps of an inkling about starting an offering. Think about the name. Let's do some searches. If you come up with nothing, let's say you go through or you come up with not a lot of results that are unfavorable, or you come up with some results that you're like, is this too similar? That's when you should contact a trademark attorney such as myself, and we will run a more comprehensive trademark search for you. Especially if you don't find anything. I think what the biggest, I know one of the things that we talked about that we would mention on this podcast were some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they're trying to implement the legal, when they're talking about their offerings. One of the biggest mistakes that people do is that they don't trademark, right? They don't find anything and they go, okay, this is in the clear. I can use this name. I'm all good. And they launch, they use it. They don't even think about trademarking, right? Because they're like, I'm not infringing on anyone's trademark. Why would I trademark the name? But what the mistake is that people make is they make the mistake of thinking that no one else is going to beat them to the trademark punch. So they launch, the course is successful. Now they're on their second launch, 6-8 months in. Someone else has already come up with a name that's similar, whether they know about your name or not, and they've trademarked it. Now they can make you change your name. Yes. So
this is the stuff that scares me. Guys,
no, and here's the thing. I know when you were saying like that a lot of this stuff scares you. I really try hard not to use scare tactic marketing. It's more trying to just present education, but I understand why that's scary. And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be scary. If you want a trademark, hire an attorney. Never use a trademark service because a large part of the time they are scams and they will take your money and they will actually not file your trademark and you'll receive documentation that looks very similar and official. And it's a huge scam market out there. So just be careful about that. But the investment into a trademark is really not that bad. It's certainly a lot cheaper than hiring a coach. And it puts your mind at ease, right? Like you're getting through this process knowing that the name is yours and that you don't have to now look behind your shoulder to see if you're going to be sued, because getting sued is going to cost you a lot more than even getting your trademark just done in general. So not to be scary, but this is something that can be done. Every entrepreneur should be doing it, but it is something that can be done that isn't necessarily going to break the bank. It's an investment, sure. Yes, but it's not going to be something super crazy.
Here's a question I have, because I'm going to just be honest of what has held me back. Even though I have completely branded I have two questions, I think. One is my business name is different than, I think, my brand name. So, what I've branded some of my offers under and what I've branded like my podcast under, my weekly newsletter under is different than my business name. And I think what initially like stops me is like, one, like, okay, what do I have to trademark both? Do I have to trademark my business name? And do I have to, I definitely know I need to trademark my offer names and whatever. So that's one thing that held me back. The other thing that held me back is like, in this, a lot of people are thinking this way too. When we create a new offer, there is no guarantee that that offer is going to take off.
Right. So why would you
Right?
spend the investment? Right. Totally.
Exactly.
I get that.
I contacted I have another person that I know that's a trademark attorney, and I contacted her, and I'm like, I know that this brand name is unique. Um, I'm thinking that I need to trademark it, but I also don't know if this particular offer is going to take off. Since then, I've turned everything under that brand name, my podcast, my newsletter,
Yeah.
two offers under that name. But yeah, those are the questions people have.
Yeah.
Like,
what was her response? I'm so curious because it'd probably be the same as mine.
she told me, let's wait and let's see if it takes off, and if it does, then we will let's talk about trademarking it.
Yeah. So my recommendation always is twofold. Number one, if you have the positioning that you can trademark any names that you're using in your business and they have longevity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are something that you don't want to change. You're scared about having someone come to you and say, okay, because you're known for being this particular thing or that course or
Mm-hmm.
podcast or whatever. Those are the names that you're going to want to consider trademarking.
Right.
And I look at that twofold. I look at that, number one, from a longevity financial standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as you said, the names that you're using, you're going to want to make sure that you're going to have some legs in your business, right? It's not going to be the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that you're thinking of. When you are starting your offers, you should always run a trademark search, whether or not you're planning on trademarking. Let me make that distinction. The other side of that coin is to look at the energetics behind what you're creating. If you're creating some offer and you're like, oh, it's okay, but I just have to put something out there, but you're not energetically tied to it, then it's probably not something that you're going to want to trademark, right? It's probably not something that's going to have some legs in your business. Right. There are also a lot of things that are ineligible for a trademark. I'm not going to get too much into nuance because that's not really part of our discussion today.
Sure.
But there are certain laws that dictate things that can and cannot be trademarked. Mm-hmm. You cannot trademark things which are considered to be merely descriptive. Sure. So let's say the name of your podcast was the Offer Information Podcast, right? Like that would be considered to be merely descriptive. It tells me exactly what your
podcast,
just any name that is like an identifier. So let's say your podcast, you talk about offers, right? Mm-hmm. So if your podcast name was the Offer Podcast or the Offer Information Podcast or something like that, that's going to be merely descriptive. You can't trademark that name anyways.
Sure.
So a good attorney is going to look at that name and tell you, hey, don't waste your money. You're not going to be able to trademark this name anyways.
Right.
So, I certainly don't advocate for people to break the bank and trademark, but I also really want people to understand the risks if they don't do it. And that would be losing the trademark name and or getting sued for trademark infringement. So.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we've covered like trademark. What's the next step in the journey of the...
So the next step in the journey would be creating the content in your offer, right? So your videos, your workbooks, your trainings, anything like that. Whenever you are... I'm sorry?
Is frameworks part of that?
Yeah, any content, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to protect that with a copyright in two different forms, right? So the first one is a copyright notice. So whenever you have any downloadables, let's say you have workbooks that are accompanied with every module or something like that. We always see these everywhere, right? The C circle, and then you have your business name, and then you're going to have some sort of notice on there that says, this is copyright protected 2026 from so-and-so, right? Mm-hmm. Those copyright notices you're going to want to put on all of your downloadables. This should also be on your freebies, anything like that. Okay. And then once you create a offer that, again, has some longevity or a framework that has some longevity, that is really making you money in your business, something you truly love, then I would consider filing for copyright protection. It's similar to a trademark registration in the sense that you submit it to the the US Copyright Office.
Okay.
They will then issue you a copyright registration. Once you go through that process, it's a lot shorter, it's a lot less expensive to do a copyright. That is going to allow you to stop other people from using your content without your permission. Without a trademark or without a copyright, you're merely asking people to stop using your name or your content without your permission, but there's nothing else you can do. You can't threaten them with a lawsuit. You can't get damages if they do use it. So consider, and again, this is kind of down the road also, because I know sometimes we make changes. You make changes, those fall outside of your copyright registration. You'll have to file for another copyright. So wait till you get to a point where, again, there's some legs there. It's something that has a, longevity in your business, and then consider filing for a copyright for that.
Got it. Okay.
Now that we've come up with a name, we've come up with the content, and we're ready to market, there's a few things that you want to think about. Let's talk about the marketing before we talk about what to implement when you take on customers.
Okay.
This has kind of been a hot button issue in 2025, and it's very complicated to try to understand. But the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, they govern how businesses market to consumers so that consumers are protected when they purchase goods or services.
Okay.
So back in the day, when they used to have infomercials at like 2:00 in the morning, then the infomercials, they'd come on there and they were like, I lost 10 pounds in 2 days, or whatever it was, or whatever that looks like, right? It was kind of guerrilla marketing at that point. The FTC has really, really cracked down, especially on online businesses, in the type of stuff that they talk about when you market your courses, programs, services, offerings, whatever.
Okay.
So there are very specific things that you can and can't say when you're talking about marketing. So let's say you launch a course, and it is helping other online course creators to build their own courses and sell their own courses, right? And one of the things that you're talking about is your very first student, Susie, who took your course and her business blew up. She started making, I don't know, 6 figures within the first 6 months of taking your course, right? And you want to talk about it, right? This is a really great success story. It was using your framework. It was using your course. You want to splash it all over the place.
Right.
That can actually get you in a lot of trouble with the FTC if it is not considered to be an average result of someone taking your course, program, or services.
Okay.
So what a lot of people want to do, again, they want to talk about their success stories from their clients, right?
Right. Yes.
But if it is not the average, it's considered to be a misrepresentation to consumers. There is something, the way that the FTC looks at all of this is that they look at what's called a net impression. What is the net impression that someone is going to get when they're looking at your marketing material? Are they going to look at your marketing material and they're going to say, oh, Susie made $500,000 in the first 6 months after taking this course. I can make $500,000, right? That's what they're going to think. That's called a net impression. So you really have to be careful about testimonials, about talking about client success stories, about talking about your own success stories, right? A large part of the time we go out there and they're like, I have this successful business. I'm over $1 million. I've made over $1 million. And like, this is why you should learn from me. It's because I'm a multimillionaire, right?
Right.
But the net impression from someone, you may not have used all of the techniques that you're teaching in this course. Sure, you've made $1 million. Is that net? Is that gross?
Right.
Is that profit? What does that look like? So be careful when you're using your marketing. You really, really, really have to be very, very distinct in your language and how you're marketing and talking about success stories and testimonials and that sort of thing. And using a disclaimer won't always cut it. So going out there and saying, yes, I've made $1 million, that is net, right? You have a little line underneath. Disclaimer, this is net. I didn't use all of the things. Results may not vary. Your earnings may not vary, right? If you're highlighting Susie's story, that isn't going to pass it. That may educate the person who is purchasing the course, but that's not going to prevent you from violating FTC rules and regulations, just having a line disclaimer. You also need to have verified proof from your clients. So if you have a client that writes you a testimonial and they say, I've made $500 in the 6 months after taking your program, you need to get information from them, bank account records, bank statements, Stripe statements. The FTC says that you need to have verified backup. You can't just take their word for it, right? Anyone could say anything. I made $1 million in a week after taking your course. This is such a great course, right? I know they do, because we're in a very social media is about connectivity, right, to other people. And if you're like making connections there, then you might say some things that might not necessarily be true or a little bit embellished, or maybe you're say something like 6 figures. Well, 6 figures, $100,000, or is it $800,000, right?
Exactly.
So you need to have the backup. If you're going to be using the language from a client, you need to make sure and verify, and not just see it from the client. You need to have that. So if the FTC comes to you and says, show me the proof, you need to be able to show them the proof, and you can't backpedal. Once you splash it out there, you can't take it back. The FTC will pull the trigger and you will be fined. So just be very careful in your marketing.
So let me clarify something. Is this strictly for financial claims, or is it like any kind of like claim? Because
lifestyle claims, if your course is teaching people how to make money and you live in a 500 square foot apartment, but you did a photo shoot on top of a Ferrari and you're using those images on your course, that's a lifestyle claim. You're carrying around a Louis Vuitton, that's a lifestyle claim. It's any types of claims. You have to be very, very, very particular. And to think that your business is too small for the FTC, they've gone after businesses that have less than 1,000 followers on Instagram, that have made less than $100,000 in revenue. So they don't care who you are. If you're egregious, they're there to protect consumers. If people are buying your course and you're making a boatload of money from people and you're saying things that are misleading, they'll come after you. They do not care how small your business is.
So let's just walk through a testimonial for a moment. And because one of the things that, I highly recommend to my clients is that you do
screenshotting.
That you have client transformation stories.
Yes.
Because that's really important. And so, if I were to write a client story of my own, for instance, it would be, this is where client A was before she, came to me. She was pivoting her business, felt disconnected from her offers, blah, blah, blah. This is what we did during our time together. We mapped her entire offer ecosystem, blah, blah, blah. She walked away with, offers she was excited about. And I may add like an actual testimonial that this person gave me. Is that like something that I have to be like concerned about, or?
So it depends on the language that you're using. That's a super general testimonial. So I can't really pick that apart too much. But
I'm just making stuff up as I go.
I get it. But if it depends on what the exact language is, there are plenty of, and I totally agree with you. And I understand, and the FTC understands, that client testimonials and transformation stories are what sell, right? Why would we want to buy something from someone who doesn't have success stories? But you just have to use caution in the things that you say. So really, the way to go about it is to look at, and I always tell people this, when I have my clients, that because I'll sometimes do audits for clients and take a look at their sales pages. And I also have a bunch of freebies on how to regulate that. And I'm just kind of barely touching the surface on FTC violations. There's a lot more to get into. But that being said, I have guides and things to help you with your sales pages and FTC violations, to walk you through what to do, what not to do. But look at the net impression. So if you were to give that testimonial to someone that isn't in your audience, like a friend or a family, church member, right? Your neighbor, whatever. And you were to have them read it, ask them what the expected result is after they read that testimonial. And if they're saying, I'm going to make $1 million, if they're saying, oh, I'm going to be transformed, can you see transformation in all of your clients with your offering? If the answer is yes, then your net impression matches your offering. You're totally fine. But
Right.
if that testimonial is the outlier, right? If it's Susie outlier and she's done great and everybody else has had like not bad results, but more
Right.
mediocre results, then you cannot use Susie, right?
Got it.
So look at the
Okay.
net impression. What is someone going to expect as a result after reading this testimonial? One other side thing
And,
about testimonials, when you're getting testimonials from your clients, always make sure that you have a testimonial release form that they are signing. If you don't,
okay.
if you screenshot, what a lot of people do is they'll have a group, right, where they put everybody in once they've taken the course or whatever, and then they're screenshotting. And we see it all the time. Again, it's the wild,
Right.
wild west. And I'm not saying that the FTC is necessarily cracking down on those, but it is
Right.
legally inappropriate. So
Okay.
if you're going to, and you can screenshot all you want, as long as someone signed a form that says, yeah, you can use that, and that is my language, right? Then go ahead and screenshot all you want. I do that in my business too. Screenshotting's not inappropriate as long as you have the right backup and the right data that says, yes, I can use it and this isn't an outlier, then you're fine.
Sure. Okay. It kind of reminds me too, when we were talking about the offer name. For instance, I have a client that came to me, and I'm working with her on her offers, and she was like, my offer name is 21 days to a brand new life, and I'm like, no. So for me, I'm looking at it from a marketing perspective. I'm just thinking, no, one, it's too vague. Two, it's too sensational. Three, are they really having a brand new life? Like, no, they're not. But now I'm thinking about it from a legal perspective. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, okay, no, we are definitely not using that name because you're not going to get a brand new life. Yeah. Are you going to have meaningful shifts in your life? Are you going to have like
Yeah.
amazing results? Can you create amazing results, that you can talk about? Yes. But a brand new
Yeah.
life, like that's
Yeah. Like,
very,
could you have 21 days to the new you? Sure. There could be a new you, but
yes.
a brand new life. Yeah.
Right.
And again, think of the net impression. What is someone who is reading the marketing material, the name, whatever that is, the testimonial, whatever you're splashing up on social media or on your sales page? What is the net impression from someone? What are they
Sure.
expecting when they read whatever it is that you're using?
Got it. Okay. Let's
Okay, let's
continue
land
down
the
the
plane.
journey. Yeah, let's land the plane and
Let's get
take
to the
off
clients.
into a different direction here.
Yeah. I know that was a scary one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about clients now, right? Like, okay, we've got our sales page. We've named it. We built it. We got our sales page up. Everything's looking clean. Let's talk about taking on clients. So your website needs to have 3 documents on it: your privacy policy, your terms and conditions, and your website disclaimer.
Okay.
Your privacy policy is legally required for every live page on your site. So if you have a pop-up where someone is getting a freebie, your privacy policy should be on there. Now, look, I know this isn't possible for everything. I think I have a pop-up on mine where I can't put a privacy policy link on it. Do the best
Okay.
you can, right? We're all
Okay.
just doing the best we can with what we can work with. Your terms and conditions is going to protect the content on your site. And the
Okay.
disclaimer is going to let people know, hey, everything on here is for general informational purposes only. The testimonials are the words of my clients. In no way is that a guarantee of working with me, right? Those are 3
Sure.
important.
Okay.
When you have your checkout page and someone is going to be purchasing your offering, then you need to have a terms of use, also called a terms of purchase, also called the terms of service. They're kind of interchangeable, but I call it, for a digital product, it's called the terms of use.
Okay.
That terms of use is going to have, it's like a contract, right? It's going to have everything in there that they need. Intellectual property protection, they're agreeing they're not going to take your course, replicate it, sell it as their own. Payment information. If you are charging someone on a recurring basis, you need specific language that dictates that you're going to be charging them on a recurring basis. There is very specific language that
Sure.
needs to be used.
Okay.
Disclaiming language, right? Earnings disclaimers, fitness disclaimers, right? I'm not in any way guaranteeing you're going to lose weight. I'm not in any way guaranteeing you're going to get 10 clients in 10 days, right? All of
Sure.
that. Medical disclaiming language. You're going to have a dispute resolution clause in there that dictates how disputes are handled prior to any disputes occurring. So by mediation, arbitration, that sort of thing. And that's all going to be put into a checkbox. The best way to have this implemented on your website, and really the most legally appropriate way, is to have a checkbox. So the law says it needs to be obvious and apparent, which you can't avoid that checkbox, right? It's required to purchase. They have to have consent. Again, checking the box says that they are agreeing, and they have to be able to open it up and read it. So you can't just have a checkbox. You have to have it linked to the bottom of the page so they can open it up and see what they are agreeing to.
Right.
So when you take on your clients, that's really what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, that was the thing that was haunting me, because I had a contract for my high ticket offer, but I have kind of lower mid, I guess mid ticket offers that I had nothing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like keeping me like up at night, because I know like I have to agree to those terms and conditions. And thankfully, I'm going to tell the audience, I got a terms of use from Natalie. It is up on my checkout pages now, and I feel like just so much better. But
I mean, without it, without it, your DM conversations, your sales page language, which could include guarantees if you're violating FTC stuff, without the terms of use in place, that becomes the contract.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
So here's where I want to bring in AI, because I know that, with the rise of AI, some listeners may have AI offers, some may not, but I still think it's important for you to understand. I personally have AI offers. My lead magnet is an AI, GPT. I have an entire squad that is completely AI. I use AI in the back of my business, with strategy. So what do we need to have in place, I guess, to protect ourselves, or can we protect ourselves like on AI?
So there's 3 things that I want to talk about with AI.
Okay.
The first one is if you have an AI offer. So let's say you have a GPT, right? I launched one for Black Friday, which was let me help you write a refund policy. Let me tell you exactly what you need to have for your Black Friday sale, all that sort of thing. When you have an AI product, then within your terms of use, you're going to want to have specific disclaiming language in there for the AI product, right? I'm not, this isn't actually me, although I've built and put some education into this GPT, is no way is this me giving you any legal, financial, medical, whatever advice, right?
Okay.
When you are using AI in your business, so let's say you are using AI to, let's say you have one-to-one offerings, right? And you help them write a sales page, and you use AI to help you write that sales page for your client.
Sure.
Then you're going to want to have language in that contract that says, just so you know, I may be using AI from time to time to help me supplement in my services. In no way should you be reliant on AI for everything that you're doing. And in fact, there's been a lot of case law out there that is dictating when people say, oh, I'm going to be providing you X service, and then they only use AI, and then they bill someone for it. That's actually legally inappropriate. So if you're going to be using AI, make sure that you're using it as a supplement to what you're doing. Sure. I think most of us are using AI. Like I use AI. What I use it for, if I do a client consult, I record the conversation on Zoom. I have like the Zoom AI note taker. Sure. I take the notes, I put it into, I actually use Claude. I put it into Claude and I say, write me a summary. And then it writes me the summary, and then I take it and then I edit the summary. I'm not using exactly what they're saying, because when you rely on Chat GPT or Claude or whatever the GPTs, you are essentially relying on something that isn't verified information, right? It may not talk like you. It may not have the right. I mean, there's plenty of times where I'll have it do something for me, I don't know, summarize this conversation or whatever. And it just all of a sudden will spit out inappropriate or like inaccurate case law. It's like, well, this could happen. And I'm like, actually, that's not even true. So
Right.
if you're going to be using AI in your business, which we all kind of do at this point, again,
Hmm.
make sure that you're using it as a supplement, not as a
Hmm.
reliance in your business.
Right.
And then the
Right.
last thing that I wanted to say was just exactly that. The last point I wanted to make about using AI. AI does the best it can, but
Hmm.
even AI, when you open it up, it's like, and I know that this isn't the language that it used, but it's like, sometimes we lie. We don't
Exactly.
know everything, and
Right.
it's
Right.
because it's pulling from the internet, and there's plenty of things on the internet that are inaccurate.
Sure.
So what I want to say lastly, when we're talking about the law and AI, make sure that you're never using AI to craft any of your contracts. I've actually had clients
Mm.
come to me and they're like, I need to do XYZ, or can you help me customize this contract? I use chat to help me create it. And
Oh
I look at
gosh.
it and I'm like, it's so inaccurate, and it probably would have saved you just so much time just having me do it. I don't know how much time you spent with chat to like put this together, but
Right.
now you're going to pay me more because now I have to undo all of it. So just
Oh
be
gosh.
very
Right.
cautious. Chat is good for a lot of things, but make sure you're not relying on it to create any of your contracts or agreements with your clients.
Such a great point. Such a great point, because I know that there's, most likely people out there that are doing that.
Yeah. No, I
So
know. And then they come to me and they're like, whoops, can you fix this?
yeah,
So I know
exactly.
it's happening.
Yeah. Thank God. I know that's one area like, no, I think because I have a brother who, is in law, and, we've had conversations about AI, and, how AI is being used in the legal realm and all of that kind of stuff. So it's like, I'm like, no, I'm not going to use AI for
Yeah.
anything legal. Nothing,
I have a
definitely
lot
not.
of people ask me, they're like, are you concerned about AI taking over, the role of an attorney? And I'm like, never. It
Right,
never can. There's
right.
nothing, there are a lot of things that will never replace human effort. Like I don't know if you saw all those. I did one of those too. The like the Christmas AI photos where they like put you in some
Yes,
whimsical like,
yes,
yeah. I mean, there's so many of them that people posted that like the image has gone bad, where they have like three hands, or like, like the candy cane they're holding is going through their body. You know what I mean? Like AI
right.
just can never replace a human being.
Exactly, exactly. That's so
Yeah,
very
yeah,
true. So, so very
yeah.
true. So, is
So
there
I know that's a
anything else? Like,
Well, I was just
did
going to
we?
say, I know that's a lot of information. So if you have stuck with us to the end of this podcast, then congratulations. You should get some sort of award. I know this is very
Exactly,
dense
because yeah,
information. It's
legal's
very needed, very
right.
required, but it is very dense. But if you want to focus on anything, so let me just like land the plane, boil it down, whatever,
Hmm.
we want to say. If you have to focus on anything during this whole offering journey that we've gone through from a legal perspective, the key things that you're going to want to focus on are making sure that you're running your trademark search
Hmm.
with a little asterisk there of filing for a trademark if you have the capability to do so. That needs to be a priority in people's businesses. Making sure that you have your contracts in place,
Hmm.
and then everything else will kind of fold from there. So really run your trademark searches, get your website documents, get your terms of use in place,
Right.
and then, just think about the net impression when you're thinking about your sales page. Don't go crazy. Don't do a deep dive in FTC rules and regulations. That's what attorneys are for. Just look at every piece of language, or send your sales page to a friend and say, hey, would you read this and tell me what you might expect your result to be from
Okay.
taking my course or offering? And
Hmm.
if it doesn't align with what you think that you are going to be delivering, then you may need to change some stuff there. But don't overthink all this stuff. Just, those are kind
Right.
of the three main points that I think people need to focus on.
Okay. Can you please tell our audience about your contract shop, because
Yeah.
I think I love it. It's like, I know I'm going to be like creating an affiliate program, and I already saw that there's an affiliate agreement in there. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many good legal things that you can get
Yeah.
from Natalie.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. So it's called Hey Contract.
okay.
It used to
Hmm.
be under my own brand, and I split it out like mid-year last year.
Okay.
There's pretty much something for anyone in the online space in there. We have wedding pros, event planners,
Hmm.
service-based businesses, graphic designers, social media managers, coaches. financial planners, anyone that's in the kind of financial realm, whether you are someone who is advising someone as a CPA or whether you're someone that is just like a financial guide or a financial coach.
Mm-hmm.
Really, there's I have stuff in there for estheticians, people who do like semi-permanent makeup artists. I have so much stuff in there. So there's really something for everyone. And it really is a great way for you to implement your legal in terms of your contracts in place using templates.
Yes.
And there's independent contractors agreement, affiliate agreement, client agreements, your website documents. There's a lot of stuff in there. And it is organized by what your offering is in your profession.
I saw that. And I will definitely drop the link in the show notes for Hey Contract. Hey Contract, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hey Contract.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything, if someone wants to reach out to you to get some legal support, what do you recommend? Like, where do you hang out?
So
like,
I'm big on Instagram. I'm just at Natalie Puglisi. There is a link in my bio where you can sign up for a free consult so we can talk about all the things. I think it's linked to my free trademark consult, but if you want to talk about other things, book it and we'll talk about whatever you want. It's free 15 minutes. And you can also just find me on my website, which is nataliepuglisi.com.
Perfect. All right. So thank you so much, Natalie. This has been amazing. And hopefully nobody's like in a state of fear like I am half the time from a legal standpoint. Not that I'm doing anything wrong, but it's like, it's something that, I think about. I really do. So it is definitely very important. And, you always see like attorneys saying, oh my God, this is happening out there. Make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're doing that.
Yeah.
And so, nobody wants to like get caught in any type of, legal issue. So.
Yeah. And it's all preventable. That's the beauty. I mean, I know that we're all panicking when we hear these types of conversations, but they're all things that you can implement. And I always get the question from people, I don't know where to start. Should I start with my contracts, trademarks, blah, blah, blah? I always tell people just start where you can. If you only have, a few $100s, then go pick up the website documents and slap those. Like, just start where you can. Not having anything and be paralyzed by fear is like the wrong approach.
Yes, agreed.
Start where you can, take advantage of the free consult. I can help you come up with a plan for exactly what we need to implement. And just as long as you're starting somewhere, you're doing good.
Good. Awesome. Thank you again, Natalie, for this conversation. It's been amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.